What is the link between intellect and knowledge? Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Welcome to my channel. I'm Thomas, and I do educational videos on a number of different subjects. Mostly right now, I'm covering the tree of life. And the tree of life is a diagram that we use kind of as an umbrella to catch everything, maybe an upside down umbrella, to catch everything. All the other subjects will fit nicely into the tree of life once we get that foundation laid. So the tree of life is kind of like the foundation for the other courses that will be offered in this on this channel. And the tree of life is an ancient diagram. At least going back as far as ancient Egypt, they didn't have all the colors and everything, I don't believe, but and the colors are far more arbitrary than the diagram itself. There are various permutations on this diagram. The ancient Hebrews used it and called it Kabbalah, but this is not Kabbalah. This is kind of actually your defense against Kabbalah. This is how you defend yourself against the evil people who are using Kabbalah out of Hollywood and, the CIA and whoever else is using it that's using it for the purpose of controlling your mind. Okay, so the tree of life has 12 different components or categories. Including the 10 numbers. 10 is here. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then there is an abyss right here. It's an implied circle or sphere. And then the 0 above the tree for a total of 12. And each one of these is more or less describing an aspect of our consciousness, or a faculty or ability of our consciousness. So, for example, start with the 10th sphere. The 10th sphere is really our wild animal consciousness. This governs our survival instinct, fight or flight response, kill or be killed, or the law of nature, or the law of the jungle. And this is where we are when we are kind of struggling to stay alive, where we are, in the jungle, and we're in a struggle for our lives. That's the 10th sphere, and that's what we have when we start our life here on Earth, and then as we age and go through experiences, we gradually have the opportunity to open up some of these other higher spheres, hopefully. So the ninth sphere is the first one that we open up in the first years of our lives, and this is really our ability to learn. We are highly receptive at this stage, soaking up everything. We're observing our parents and our caregivers. This is really the domestic sphere. It's within the domestic space in the home. And this is kind of like our mammalian consciousness. And we basically are highly receptive, and we learn by observation and then memorization and practice of practice imitating our caregivers. So we watch what they do, and then we try to copy it. And it turns out to be fairly hard, so we have to copy it over and over and over again. Even the most basic movements, we have to, just like learning how to walk. We have to do it over and over and over. But first, before that, you're watching your caregivers walk. You're watching what they do, and then you kind of learn how to copy that. And then you practice it over and over and over again until you get it. And then once you get it, it becomes old hat. And so, no longer do you have to apply consciousness to it. It becomes automatic. So that's another aspect of the ninth sphere, is that eventually you get these things into your rote memory. So this is really the memory. There's a lot of memory that goes into the 10th sphere as well, but this kind of more conscious memory is in the ninth sphere, and then once it becomes automatic, then you can maybe say it sinks down into the 10th sphere and becomes part of your body memory. So this is really more of our conceptual memory, and the amygdala, our non-conceptual body memories are more down here. The memory is kind of shared here between the 10th and the ninth. Then the 8th sphere is similar to the ninth in that it's basically about imitation, but it's really about imitation of ideas and belief systems and ways of thinking. So the 8th sphere is owned by all of the institutions, the establishment. This is where what you would call the real world and the public sphere. So this is where the schools and the churches and the media and the government are all occupied, and they all have kind of their experts and their expert opinion and their conventional wisdom, and they tell you how things are, what you're supposed to believe, and how you're supposed to behave. And to the extent that you can follow those directions and jump through those hoops, you can be acceptable by the 8th sphere, and then you can have access to the resources that are available at the 8th sphere, which is pretty much all the resources, all the material resources. So we learn to basically believe what they believe, and then we turn around and we use our rational faculty to justify those beliefs by rationalizing them. So even though our experience may not jibe with the conventional wisdom, we just believe it anyway, because it's too much of a hassle to go and disagree with them. Because once you start disagreeing with them, they start to shun you. And so it's not really even worth it to say that the emperor has no clothes. And then also, the 8th sphere is where the trickster is located. So this is there's a lot of fakery and a lot of illusion going on in this 8th sphere, where they're telling us what to believe. They don't necessarily believe it themselves, what they're telling you to believe. Now the 7th sphere, where the 8th sphere is supposed to be about the real world, the 7th sphere is about the imaginary world. So the 7th sphere is for people who maybe have checked out the 8th sphere and they smelled a rat. They were just like, I don't believe what they're telling me. That makes no sense, and it's not working. It doesn't really work. So they come over here to the 7th sphere, and they use their imagination, one of the faculties of the 7th sphere. They use their discernment, another faculty of the 7th sphere, their intuition, their inspiration, their creative spark, their ability to turn things into new things, and to combine them into pleasing relationships, their pleasure principle. All these things go into the 7th sphere, and they go into creating new things that attempt to improve upon what's going on in the 8th sphere. So these could be anything from a piece of art, to a song, to a story, to a comedy sketch, to an invention. These things all are products of the 7th sphere, where they attempt to provide alternatives to the 8th sphere. But of course, they don't really, because the 8th sphere is where all the power is located. And so, over here, they don't have the microphone. They can't blast out their findings. It's pretty much a monopoly here. So people either at the 7th sphere, they're given this crossroads situation where they either can choose to just hand their creativity back to the 8th sphere, which is what the asphere wants, because the asphere has no creativity. So they'll take your creativity and appropriate it for their own purposes, and probably pay you a fair amount of money for it. Or you have to really develop your invention and your belief systems up the tree. So the crossroads situation is you can go back level onto the asphere, or you can climb up. So you have to take the hard choice in order to, keep your stuff out of the asphere. And this is a much more lonely path, and it is there's no remuneration for it. So, but you can use your inspiration by being inspired by other people who have done the same. And that inspiration gives you like that 1% of impetus to get you started. But then you have to use that 99% perspiration to keep going on this uphill path. But you get to the sixth sphere, and you discover that you're already there, because the sixth sphere is where we're really located. But we think we're located here because the sixth sphere is our free will faculty, our ability to pay attention and to make decisions. And we find that we are paying attention, but we're fixated. Our attention is fixated on our comfort zone here, 8, 9, and 10. So even though we are really located here, our attention is focused on this area here. And so the other half of our free will, where we really exercise our free will, is free will is our ability to pay attention and to make decisions. So we make the decision to turn our attention around and focus it up the tree to our higher aspects. So that's the key thing at the sixth sphere, is to be able to turn our attention around and focus it on the upper parts of the tree. This is a move that requires great courage, because we don't really have anything to go by here. We don't have a well-developed set of faculties up here. These are more or less unknown, whereas these are well-known, and these are comfortable for us. We've grown up with them. We know everything about them, or we know at least what we need to know, or what we think we need to know about them. But when we turn around, we're looking into the void. But if we can pay attention to our fifth sphere, we can begin to build something, because the fifth sphere is our sense of justice. So if we focus our attention on our sense of justice, really karma, what comes around goes around. As you sow, so shall you reap. And for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. There's a boomerang effect on all our actions. So when we act, we get it back. We get immediate feedback on our actions. And we can learn. So karma is calibrated based on violence, violation, and waste. So when we act in a wasteful manner, we are returned. We get return action in a wasteful manner. If we act in a violent manner, we get return action in a violent manner. And so we get that feedback. We can figure it out. We can figure out, hey, why? The reason why I'm getting these bad results is because I'm putting bad, violent behavior into the mix, and so I'm getting it back. And so you can gradually clean up your behavior at the sixth sphere by paying attention to the fifth sphere. So this is your first ability to use your attention to elevate yourself, instead of just continually, going around and around on this, this cycle here. So the fifth sphere is the big thing to help us boost us up and to really inform us. Now, the fourth sphere is something that we also can put our attention on, because the fourth sphere is corresponding to the fifth sphere, where the fifth sphere is about the enforcement of the natural law, or karma. The fourth sphere is about the articulation of that law, which comes through cosmologies, holy books, and the theories of everything, and so on. Media that civilizations have spent their whole lifespans working on and perfecting based on, scientific or principles, observation, investigation, experimentation, experience, not based on just decree or commandment, which is like the A-sphere fake law. The A-sphere has got a fake or facsimile of everything else. Everything, it's got, the A-sphere is kind of like its own ecosystem, but everything there is fake. So they have the fake force sphere within their laws. But these are the real laws. And these aren't necessarily real, but they're attempting to be real through these scientific principles of observation and experimentation and so on. But that doesn't mean that they got everything right. Those things are still, the truth itself, the laws itself are permanent. But our estimation of those laws are continually in need of revision as more new information comes in. So we can get a very good approximation here, but we'll never get everything exactly right. So these things need to be adjusted to adjust to new information as it comes in. But the better the cosmology you have, the less often it needs to be adjusted. Okay, so now the abyss is about our psychic powers, our ability to tune into and recognize omens or synchronicities or coincidences or any other type of kind of anomalous activity that goes beyond statistical probability. Those are things that we kind of need to jump on and to say, oh, wow, that's really weird. When something like that happens, don't just discard it and just say, oh, well, I'll put that in the back of my mind or I'll forget about it. No, this is something that is, it's the language that the universe is speaking that's telling you that this is something important to be paying attention to and to be acting upon. So those are the two aspects of psychic powers, is your ability to recognize the omen and then your ability to act upon the omen. And the action is generally implicit in the synchronicity itself. It kind of points at what kind of action you're supposed to take. But again, that requires courage, because it usually requires you to put yourself out there and to expose take a leap. You have to take a leap to make that psychic heat, as opposed to the psychic receptivity, which is just recognizing it. Okay, so now we go to 3, 2, and 1. These are our divine faculties within in this triangle. And this is our omnipotence, all-powerful. Omniscience, all-knowing or wisdom, our ability to solve problems. And omnipresence, all-present, all at once, all everything, eternally. This is really tapped into through sound synchronization. This is tapped into through sight, or inner sight, vision, inner vision, which is really, we tap into that by kind of being able to block out our thinking process. Here we're really taking our thinking process and like abstracting it to just like the syllables, the elements of sound. Here we're going beyond it entirely and basically going deeper and deeper into the mind, to the visible aspects of it. Like if you, for example, if you're looking at a pool of water, if the water is choppy, you can't see through it. But once it becomes completely calm, it becomes transparent. And that's kind of how the mind is. You've got to be able to silence the mind so that it becomes totally calm. And then you can see through it. And what you end up seeing is you see this absolute, the bottom or the center of the mind, which is the first sphere, which is the unifying factor, because this is unifying because it is our creative spark within, our divine spark within, which is the same as the divine spark within everything else. So we're all unified at our deepest core, our deepest center. And then the zero sphere is above the tree, and it is the mystery. It is the unknown, and it is the zero, the nothingness. And that's because it's not part of the universe. Nothing, there is no nothing in the universe, but there is nothing outside the universe. And so even though the nothing, the zero, is not part of the universe, it is part of the creator. So it's what the creator reserves for itself. So the creator has a side hustle or whatever that's not part of the universe. It's got a private life that, you know, doesn't exist in this universe. And that is the zero. Now, that's the basic beginner's perspective on the tree of life. Now, to go a little bit deeper, what you would do is, or what I have done, is I take the whole tree and I boil it down, shrink it down, and then apply it to each sphere. So I break down the seventh sphere into its 12 parts. I break down the ninth sphere into its 12 parts, and so on, for a total of 144 different mini stages. What I call stages of life. Not chronological stages, but dramatic stages of life. And I've compiled those into a list, which I'd be happy to share with you if you send me, if you click the link and send me a message. I will send that out to you. A free list of the 144 fractal faculties or stages of life, consciousness, history. And each day, as I do these videos, I'll cover a different one of those 144 stages here at the end of the video. I introduce it with the question at the beginning: what is the link between intellect and knowledge? Today, we're looking at stage number 35. And stage number 35 is in the eighth sphere. This is, you know, your establishment, your institutions, your mental faculty, your the trickster, and the, you know, and it's the first fractal of the eighth sphere. So it combines this kind of omnipresence and unifying factor, and really just the essence of the eighth sphere is the first fractal of the eighth sphere. And it's called Intellect is the Verbal Clothing of Knowledge. Stage number 35 is about the limitations of left brain intellect. Intelligence is not us. It's not even ours. Intellect is only an approximating faculty. Intellect translates nonverbal messages into words, but it does not have the ability to process meaning. Verbal thinking is an obstruction to gaining knowledge of reality. Belief literally means we don't have knowledge. The emperor's new clothes are consensus words and beliefs over our own knowledge and experience. The dude's duds are deceptive and dupe us daily. Intellect gives the illusion of advancement, but really, it's just moving around and around on a carousel. Cleverness is only for easing the way. By grasping the limitations of intellect, we can escape from the circular trap, escape from the spin cycle, avoid the twisted interpretations, and sidestep the left brain samsara. Intellect is only effective after the whole has already been perceived. Illusions, black magic spelling, double binds, and more. The living truth is mutilated by reason. These words, sharp edges. Thinking starts with spontaneous preoccupation. We are continually discarding irrelevancies. Thinking is not a putting in, but is a putting out of irrelevancies. Thinking is exclusive, while experience is inclusive. Verbal thinking is inherently exclusive of irrelevancies. It is segregative and therefore not expressive of our true nature. It's twisted. Thinking is not getting us anywhere spiritually either, but to the door of the spirit. Consensus censorship, but we see, we hear, no silence in the mind. We are under pressure not to trust our own experience, not to go against the paradigms, the dictates, and the mandates. But intellect does not have the ability to process meaning. It translates knowledge into verbal messages, into syllables, separating the whole into manageable steps. Our thoughts are just clouds drifting by. We do not need to attach to them. Intelligence is not us, and it is not ours. It is only an approximating faculty. It's a formula for false consciousness. Because we're caught in a circular trap by our attention. And we can free ourselves. All right, that is number 35. Intellect is the verbal clothing of knowledge. And that is the first fractal of the 8th sphere. Thanks for sticking around to the end today. And please click the link in the description if you'd like me to send you the list of the 144 fractal faculties. And click the like button, share and subscribe the video if you so choose. And you can also donate to me through Venmo and Cash App. Addresses in the description. Stay tuned for future videos on this channel of Tree of Life, a different stage every day for the next couple months till we finish all 144. And have a beautiful day.